When is your financial freedom date? Now we're going to get into this one, but before we do, if you find my content valuable, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell. Now, when is your financial freedom or financial independence date? Now, before we get too far into this one, I just wanted to show you here, I have on my shirt here, and we're going to define terms. This is the shirt that my family and I had made last year when was my first month actually of being debt-free. We went to Virginia, and we also went to Washington, D.C. and actually took a tour and everything, and I celebrated my debt freedom rather that way by actually going to Washington, D.C. and doing a tour of the monuments and everything there, and it was a great time. But I want to kind of do some definitions here. The definition of debt freedom versus financial freedom. Now, debt freedom is kind of playing defense. I actually typed this in to AI and I asked it, what is the difference between debt freedom and financial freedom? And it said that debt freedom is playing defense. It's eliminating liabilities, getting rid of things like credit cards, student loans, and maybe even a mortgage. That's debt freedom. About 23% of people are completely debt-free, including the mortgage, having no payments at all whatsoever. And last year, about 1 year ago, it's July right now, but July of last year is when I said earlier that I no longer had any more debt payments. And that was a glorious time. But it's kind of neat for me now to look at that date, the July 4th date, as a milestone where I reached that debt freedom. And I suggest to you, it doesn't have to be a holiday or anything like that, but kind of set in your mind, when are you going to be debt free? When are you going to be financially free? So we talked about debt freedom. Now, debt freedom, your stress is definitely reduced when you've paid off your debts. But you still need to have active income when you're debt-free, because you still need to pay to sustain your lifestyle. You still need to eat. You still need to pay your reoccurring bills like utilities and things like that. So you still need to have active income when you're debt-free. Now let's talk about financial freedom or financial independence. Now that's playing offense, as AI says. That's focusing on asset accumulation and creating consistent streams of passive income. Things like dividends, real estate, or business profits. On this channel, I often talk about creating those assets or investing in those assets like paper assets. Particularly, I often talk about the S&P 500 fund or an S&P 500 index fund. Now, an S&P 500 index fund, since its inception, has returned about 10%. So I talk about that a lot. Financial freedom is actually getting to the point to where those assets can pay for your lifestyle. So you don't have to have an active income anymore, like going to a job or having a business or something like that to sustain your lifestyle. This is an incredible point to actually get to, okay? Now, I talked about debt freedom, but another little caveat or another little point here is it's a good thing to actually, while you're becoming debt-free, to also be building up some assets at the same time. In fact, a kind of simple order of operations or a simple way to look at your path to freedom is to start by having emergency savings. I often talk about at least having $2,000 worth of a starter emergency fund. Then you want to kind of start investing if you have the opportunity with a 401k at work, because the 401k often has a match that's often 100% match. So that's a 100% return on your money. Paying off debt, number 3, is also important. Getting out of debt and staying out of debt. And then finally, investing in assets. It's really that simple. Have emergency savings. Take advantage of investing if you have a 401k match or something like that at work. And even if you don't have a 401k match, I would go to number 3, paying off debt and getting out of that high interest debt. But also, while you're at first, I would, of course, get rid of the high interest debt. But even if you have some debts remaining, like a car or a house or something like that, I would go ahead and start investing while you're paying that off so that you get compounding interest working in your favor. And finally, you want to really pour on the investing. With an aspirational goal, I learned this from the money guy, to getting to 25% of your gross income actually going towards investing for your future so that your assets can pay for your lifestyle. Now, we talked about in the very beginning in this title, what is your financial independence day? Or when, rather, is your financial independence day? Well, the math of financial independence is extremely simple. All you have to do is look at what would it take for you to sustain your lifestyle? How much money per month would it take for you to sustain basic comfortable living, okay? And then you take that, what would you need annually then to actually have that comfortable living? And all you have to do is figure out what you need monthly. Let's use an example. Let's say that you need $4,000 a month to live comfortably. And then that $4,000, you take that times 12, would be $48,000 a year. All you have to do is take whatever you need, in this example, $48,000 a year, and times that by 25. Whatever it is, okay? Now we're using the example of $48,000 a year times 20, or $48,000 a year, yes, times 25, and that would give you $1,200,000. So if you had $1,200,000 in something like an S&P 500 fund that has, since its inception, returned about 10%, then you would be right there where that accumulation of $1,200,000 would pay out about at a 4% return, or a 4% withdrawal rather. The 4% rule is a good rule of thumb. You don't want to take more than 4% from your total nest egg or your total savings. Then that would leave you with that $4,000 a month or $48,000 a year that you would be able to count on to actually live your lifestyle. So again, the math is very, very simple. Just find out what it takes for you to survive monthly and annually. Get that, calculate all of that, like in our example, $4,000 a month or $48,000 a year. You take $48,000 a year times 25, and that gives you your financial independence or your financial freedom number that you need to achieve. In the case of the $48,000 a year, that's $1,200,000, okay? So that's great. It's really that simple, okay? Whatever you need times 25. All right, let's go further here. All right, because a lot of folks might say, I can already hear it, I can't survive on $4,000 a month. I need more than that. Well, you're forgetting a lot of the stuff that we talked about. You're getting out of debt. You're saying no to debt. Let's just take car payments. My last video, I talked about car payments. The average car payment here in the United States is about $770 per month. Think about that, $770, that's almost $800 a month. To keep the math simple, we're gonna go ahead and talk about $800 a month as the car payment. Let's just say that you eliminated that, and you eliminated that only, okay? And you were to invest in an S&P 500 index fund, okay? It would take you right at a little over 26 years to accumulate that $1,200,000. That's if the S&P 500 performed like it has since its inception, about a 10% return. So just a little over 26 years, and you would make it to that $1,200,000. Now, a lot of people start investing a little bit later in life, in their 30s. So let's just say at 30 years old, you're getting this information, okay? And you eliminate car debt and you dedicate that $800 a month to an S&P 500 index fund. That means 26 years, approximately, a little over 26 years, to get from zero to $1,200,000. That means at about 56 years old, you would reach the goal of $1,200,000, and you would have a reoccurring income from that asset of approximately $4,000 a month or $48,000 a year. Incredible, all right? But let's just say that you're saying to me, well, I can't make it on $4,000 a month, okay? Well, I'm gonna kind of argue with you on that. You certainly can. Think about this. As we look at the median income of American household, the median income of an American household is approximately $84,000 a year, okay? $84,000 a year. Now, the average mortgage payment is approximately $2,000 a month. That's $24,000 a year, okay? Car payments. On average, let's just say that a couple, we're talking about a couple that's making $84,000 a year household income. They have a $2,000 a month mortgage and they purchase 2 used vehicles. Now, I recommend buying vehicles cash, but let's just say that they're somewhat reasonable and they buy 2 used vehicles, $500 a month each. That comes up to $1,000 a month that they're spending on vehicles. So $2,000 a month on mortgage, $1,000 a month on vehicles. So $3,000 going out each month on house payment, car payments. That's $36,000 a year, okay? Now the average, or rather the median household income here in America is $84,000 a year. 84,000 minus 36,000 puts you right at $48,000 a year. So if you get rid of the house payment, you get rid of the car payments, that means that that $4,000 a month will be adequate to take care of your lifestyle. That $48,000 a year would take care of you. Incredible. Totally incredible. So, just like I was saying, if you just dedicated that $800 a month, it would just take you a little over 26 years to get that done. Now, we had that example of 2 used cars at $500 a month with that couple earning $84,000 a year. Let's say that they got rid of those car payments and put all $1,000 a month into saving. Then it would just be 24 years. So at 30 years old, you're talking 30, 40, 54. Let's say that you're 40 years old. It would just be 64 years old. And you would be at that $1,200,000 that could generate for you annually, every single year, $48,000 a year, where you're able to live your lifestyle without working. You can do what you want, when you want. You decide. You decide if you don't work at all, or if you work part-time, or if you pursue a business idea, or anything else. I want to encourage you to write down your financial independence or freedom date. Write it down. I kind of like the 4th of July because I reached debt freedom on the 4th of July. So it kind of rings well with me. But the date doesn't matter. What matters is that you write it down and make a plan. Use a financial or retirement calculator. They're all over the internet for free. Just type one in. I use Dave Ramsey's retirement calculator. You can type that right into Google and that'll come up for you where you can figure out how much you need to save each month to get to your goal. And all you need to do is find out how much you need to survive comfortably every single month times 25. And there you have it, your financial freedom number. Again, if you find my content valuable, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell. Thanks again for following me on the walk here and listening.